side of the U.S. Capitol, a more peaceful scene was unfolding. Nearly 300,000 Americans gathered in support of Israel, in support of the Jewish people.
As it should be.
Sharp contrast to the anti-Israel protests that have erupted not only around the country but around the world. By the way, we didn't notice today any flag burning or any vandalism or hateful graffitis.
You want to burn our flags? Get out of our country.
And there were no assaults or acts of intimidation.
How dare you?
No genocidal chants
Nope.
from the river
They're
to the
following
sea.
the First
No
Amendment
signs calling
to
for a global violent
peacefully
religious revolution. No. Instead, demonstrators
Look at
draped
the
in
evil.
Israeli and American flags held pictures of the men, the women, the
There
little
you go.
children
Peacefully
kidnapped and
protest.
killed by
First
Hamas.
Amendment right.
They prayed for their safe
Unlike
return
the
in
other
peace
group.
of those taken hostage and for a more peaceful world, free from terrorism and anti-Semitism. Take a
right.
look.
Are you amazed at how many people have arrived here today to show their support and solidarity for the Israeli government and to speak out against what happened on October 7th?
I really am.
Look at how
It was
peaceful.
really a horrific day for the world. You know what happened on October 7th?
This is the moment, this is once in a lifetime when, Jews come together, non-Jews come together to clearly declare that we need to be on the right side of history.
That's
and
right.
This is it. This is right here, right now.
This country was founded on people escaping oppression.
We don't go to your country and burn your flags, do we?
We're not marching down the streets calling for the death of anyone.
Right,
we just
exactly.
want to live. That's
You
all
hear this?
we're trying to
Exactly.
do.
What is the message
Peace.
that you hope to get across to the American people today?
Well, to bring back the hostages, and Hamas started this war. There was a ceasefire on October 7th, and they broke it. And they callously murdered thousands of Israelis, and it's time that they let the hostages go. So terror never wins.
We are not going to stop fighting it. We will stand up to it. We will be here in Washington and every place else it takes to let the world know Israel is here to stay.
That's
It's
right,
not going
baby.
away, and we will
That's
defend
right.
it with all our might.
Now, make no doubt about it, this is a David versus Goliath battle between the world's only Jewish state and a tiny strip of land in the Middle East versus enemies clearly from every direction.
All around him.
One of those enemies, Hamas in the south, murdered over 1,200 Israelis in a single day. Many of these victims raped and tortured, some beheaded, many taken hostage. According to reports, Hamas brought children as young as 10 to take part in that attack on October the 7th. This is a barbaric group of terrorists, and now they are under Gaza City's largest hospital, which, by the way, this has been their MO for years, meaning they fire their rockets from schools and from hospitals. And we also believe a major battle is
The Palestinians should be angry at Hamas.
And according to U.S. officials,
and with America, they really want their people free.
Build their main military command center right under the hospital. Again, they're using patients, they're using doctors, they're using children, nurses, all as human shields. Now, Israel has offered to transfer patients to field hospitals and provide mobile
That's very kind of Israel to offer that.
As Prime Minister Netanyahu said on this program last night. But so far, it is not clear that Hamas is allowing anybody to leave that building. They're using those people, hopefully they think, to save their lives. In a different hospital nearby, Israeli soldiers unearthed yet another Hamas command center below ground. Take a look, complete with weapons and explosives. And there were even grenades in there and RPGs found in a children's playroom. And by the way, also evidence that hostages, including babies, were being held underground. There's no denying that Hamas is just pure evil in our time. For most decent people, if you have a conscience, if you have a soul, if you have a brain that actually works, on both sides of the aisle, it's simple. There's no ambiguity here. You should have moral clarity. But for some reason, the far left in this country, the ones that cry about microaggression and misgendering, they're now out in full force excusing the kidnapping, the rape, the torture, the murder.
And violently doing so, burning our flag, defacing buildings.
Israeli protests. And unfortunately, on Capitol Hill, some of these same idiots are congressional
Yep, they're
staffers.
the idiots. There they are.
Pay attention to this.
Do not.
They recently staged a walkout. Why? To protest America's support for the world's only Jewish state. Elsewhere in the Washington swamp, more than 500 bureaucrats across 40 different federal agencies signing a letter rebuking Joe Biden's public support for Israel. Privately, he's not been as supportive. Publicly, he's been trying to say the right things. This is what your radicalized Democratic Party is today. So what is wrong with these people? And where were they when Arabs were gassed by Assad in Syria? I don't recall the protests. Or maybe during Mosul's obliteration during the battle against ISIS, or during the ongoing proxy war in Yemen, where hundreds of thousands died.
Pull out their
Why
guns
is it
and
that
knives
they
on
have
us.
suddenly discovered the word ceasefire when Israel is involved? Is it because they hate the Jews? Many of them openly say it. Is it because they want Israel wiped off the map? They're openly saying that too. In the United States, the Biden administration is reportedly now giving huge amounts of money to mosques. This is the Biden administration and other Islamic centers that have been preaching or have a history of preaching hatred against the Jewish people and against Israel. Look at this.
And Americans, come on, say it.
To one California mosque run by an imam who prayed that Jews will be annihilated in a war over the Holy Land. The Biden administration is also reportedly now planning to free up to another, get this, $10 billion for the mullahs in Iran that is now frozen in Iraq. Iran is the world's _1 state sponsor of terror. They turned a blind eye to them selling their oil, which resulted in anywhere from $80 to $100 billion in their coffers to foment more terror. Iran that helped plot, plan, scheme what happened on October 7th. Iran that's providing and trading the weaponry of terror that is being used against Israel. Has the Biden administration lost their mind? Why is, since the Obama-Biden administration and now the Biden administration, this obsession to give billions of dollars to the #1 state sponsor of terror, the mullahs of Iran that chant death to Israel and death to America? Remember the last time that Biden decided
Don't forget
to
that.
unfreeze billions of Iranian dollars a few weeks later, while Iran's proxy.
So basically, Biden is sending money, and they're going to turn it back on us and do the same thing to us they did to Israel.
Is in for a fight for their survival, and literally, they're going block by block, house by house, hospital by hospital against a terrorist organization whose own charter calls for the destruction of Israel, the people that are using women and children as defensive weapons. But less than 2 months into this war, they have already reached the heart of Hamas's military infrastructure. And we do believe that this critical battle is underway as we speak. Here now with the very latest. He's on the ground. He's in Israel tonight. Jeff Paul is with us. Jeff, the IDF has pretty much confirmed that this is happening as we speak.
Yeah, and Sean, this has been ramping up for the last few days. The Israeli forces have been moving closer and closer to the Shifa hospital, tightening their grip in and around Gaza City. But tonight we are learning that the IDF has now moved into the hospital to undergo what they are calling a precise and targeted operation against Hamas. Now, they're making it clear they are at war with Hamas, not the civilians who call Gaza home. But they say over the last few days, they've been giving out these warnings that military operations need to be stopped within inside this hospital. They say that hasn't happened. So now, tonight, at this hour, they have moved into that hospital. They say that this is going to be a very difficult and sensitive operation. And because of that, they're going to be having medical staff on hand as well as Arabic speakers. They say their intent is not to hurt anybody, that they say the civilians, though, right now are being, quote, used as human shields by Hamas.
As human
Israel has long
shields.
stipulated that
Cowards.
Hamas is using this hospital
Cowards.
as a sort of makeshift operation zone, both inside and underneath the hospital. Hamas has denied that. And tonight, they've actually released a statement to Fox News saying that the hospital has, quote, been stormed, and they're calling it a massacre against patients, casualties, displaced people, and medical staff. Now, it's important to note that the Shifa hospital is the biggest in northern Gaza. It's been reportedly without power over the last few days, putting a lot of people who are vulnerable at risk. But tonight, Sean, the IDF, putting it quite simply, they're telling Hamas militants who are in the hospital to simply surrender. Sean?
If that is their command,
They'd
Hamas's
rather
command center,
not
I don't
surrender
really think they have
and
much
put
of a
the
choice
lives
here.
of innocent
If
people
any
in
innocent
danger.
people are killed, that would be that should be blamed on Hamas
Yep.
for building their command center under the hospital.
Exactly.
And that has also, Jeff, been the MO of Hamas throughout the many years. They fire their missiles into Israel, often from schools and hospitals, and used those areas because they want the human shield. So this would be, basically the same tactics that they've always been using, correct?
Yeah, and Sean, it's important to know, as much as Israel is firing artillery, which we saw tonight into Gaza, today, the day before, we've been getting these alerts. We've been seeing the Iron Dome work. There are rockets still being fired from Gaza into Israel, despite all these pleas for a ceasefire.
Exactly.
So this is definitely a two-way street here.
And I bet you CNN is not telling you that.
Reaction to all of today's top stories, House Foreign Affairs.
Y'all better stop listening to the lying news
Michael
people.
McCall, if this is their command center, and not just this hospital, but other hospitals, it is the MO that Hamas has been using for years, firing rockets into Israel.
You can thank the worst president we've ever had in the history of the United States.
In terms of military strategy, but to
all
knock
of
out
this
their
happening.
command center. But it's got to be done delicately. Clearly, they're trying to.
My
set up
conscience
field
is clear because I
hospitals
didn't vote
and
for that
having doctors
bastard.
and nurses standing by. I don't really see that they have any option though, but to take out that center.
There's no question. I mean, the Al-Shifa Hospital is a military command infrastructure. They put innocent civilians, hostages, human shields. They bury them within the hospital and then tunnels, 500 miles of tunnels. I was just in Israel, just got back, met with Prime Minister Netanyahu, talked about this very issue. They are taking this very delicately, trying to save civilian lives as they circle Gaza City, have a humanitarian corridor through the barrier they have created into southern Gaza. But it shows what cowards really Hamas are to use their own people and the hostages as human shields.
Cowards.
They've done this now for many, many years. Let me ask you this, Congressman. It sounds like they are doing this with pinpoint accuracy and really trying every effort imaginable to protect the innocent, that maybe the nurses, the doctors, the patients that are in that hospital. The question is, will Hamas be in the process of killing them to save themselves?
Well, they have booby traps in the tunnels. We met with the Minister of Defense in Israel 2 days ago. He mentioned the casualties are a lot lower than they had anticipated because they're doing this in a very slow, deliberate manner, surrounding Gaza City and then allowing Hamas to come out of the tunnels, then to maybe free these hostages and innocent civilians, but then kill Hamas. Hamas has to go. They have to be eradicated from the planet if we can have any peace in the Middle East moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I asked this of Prime Minister Netanyahu last night. I think he was a little reluctant to go there, maybe for obvious reasons. But if we're going to define victory for Israel, doesn't it mean that in Gaza, Hamas can no longer use Gaza as a staging area to fire rockets into Israel? Wouldn't they have to define success as eliminating all the terror tunnels? Wouldn't they have to declare victory by saying Lebanon, too, can no longer be used as a launching pad to fire rockets into Israel? And that would go to, and then at some point, somebody's got to talk about the people fomenting and facilitating all these proxy wars, and that, of course, would be Iran.
Oh, that's 100% right. And I think when I talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu, the goal is to eradicate Hamas, not allow them to reconstitute in the Gaza. They don't want to occupy Gaza. Nobody wants Gaza, to be honest with you. They want a governance that can take place without Israel and without Hamas. And that's simply all they want. They want peace, to be honest with you.
Without Hamas?
And Iran, as you pointed out, is the one.
Well, it's got to be, they can't have Hamas, they can't have Hezbollah, they can't have the Houthi rebels firing, and they can't have Syria firing at them either. But Chairman McCall, we appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. All right, joining us now, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator